Welcome to the Timedox Pro Suite software. This software package consists of two separate program files. The Employee Report Manager. The Employee Report Manager is necessary for processing and viewing reports. The Offline Device Manager. The Offline Device Manager is used to transfer data via your local network. We'll be referring to these programs a few times throughout this video. In order to generate and process time and attendance reports, data must first be transferred from your Timedox time clock device to a computer where the Employee Report Manager is saved. If you have chosen to transfer the data via your network, you'll need to install the Offline Device Manager. Upon installation, you'll need to enter a password of Timedox to launch the program. Once you have followed the device's instructions to retrieve the IP address, the first part of this video will guide you through the rest of the setup process. However, if you plan to use the USB drive to transfer the data, please refer to the instructions in the Quick Start Guide for your device and skip ahead to the next section of this video. After you've retrieved an IP address from your time clock, let's click on Add Device. Here, we'll enter the IP address using the drop-down menus. Don't worry about this last field, as this is the port configuration and cannot be changed. Also, you want to make sure that this port is not blocked. You may need to check with your network administrator. So, I'm going to enter the IP address of 10.1.10.158. After entering the IP address, we can now click Connect Device. Don't worry about the serial number, as this will be retrieved from the device once it's successfully connected. You will hear a few confirmation beeps from the time clock itself, as well as see a confirmation message on the screen letting you know that the device was successfully added. You can click OK to close this window. Click Close to close this window. Now that the device is successfully added, we can try a ping just to verify. You can select device by the serial number, verify the IP address, and select ping. Once again, you'll hear some confirmatory tones from the time clock, as well as receive a message on the screen confirming that the device is available. After you have successfully connected your Timedox time clock to the Offline Device Manager, you'll want to set the Offline Device Manager to automatically retrieve new attendance data from the clock and upload it to your Timedox folder on your computer. Let's set this up now. We'll do this by going to Settings, and under Export, we want to make sure Auto is checked. If not, click Auto. Once Auto is checked, we'll come here and then select Options. We want to make sure the path is pointing to the Timedox folder on our desktop. If you don't have a Timedox folder on your desktop, make sure this file is pointing to wherever you're going to store your Timedox data. So now that this is pointing to the Timedox folder on my desktop, I'm going to click OK. I'm going to leave this at 3 a.m. because that's perfect time to upload new attendance data. Now that we've set this to retrieve this data automatically, let's go ahead and manually retrieve the data file now. We'll do this by clicking the Upload button, selecting the device from the list of serial numbers here, and selecting Upload. Again, we want to point this to the Timedox folder on our desktop. And finally select Save. You will see a confirmation message letting you know that the file has been saved successfully. You may click OK to close this window and close to exit back to the main menu. Setting the Employee Report Manager. The Employee Report Manager allows you to view and manage your time and attendance data for all employees. To set this up, let's go ahead and open the Timedox folder. Once inside the Timedox folder, I'll have two files. One file is the data file that has been retrieved from the time clock, while the other file is the Employee Report Manager. I think it's best practice to keep all Timedox related data and files here for quick and easy access in the future. Let's click on Employee Report Manager to get started. Upon opening the Employee Report Manager for the first time, you may be prompted to enable macros. This will be based on the security settings within Microsoft Office on your computer. Please note, macros must be enabled to use the software's features. Consult your network or systems administrator for more on security settings. Now, it's time to define your company and payroll settings. This will help the software understand how to calculate and report the time and attendance data for your company. First, enter your company name. Next, select whether or not your company pays weekly overtime. If one is selected, the software will calculate overtime hours at the overtime rate. We'll have a chance to define them both later. If you would like to automatically deduct break time from your employees' total hours, select 1 here. If you'd prefer your employees punch in and out for breaks, select 0. Next, select your company's pay frequency. This will determine how much data the software will display when you import attendance records for payroll. Choose when your pay period starts. If your company pays weekly or bi-weekly, you'll need to choose a day of the week. If your company pays monthly or twice monthly, you'll need to select a date. I'm going to go back to bi-weekly with the pay period start day of Sunday. Day changes that can be left at the default 0-100 hours or 12 a.m. setting in most cases. However, if your company has shifts that go past midnight, you'll want to set this to at least 1 hour after the last employee is expected to clock out. This will enable the software to accurately record their hours for the calendar day in which the shift was started. Here, select your company's normal business hours. This setting is used to report tardiness and early or late departures. If your employees work various shifts, you can skip this setting as the software is not able to report on multiple schedules. If your state laws require rounding, you can activate the feature by selecting 1 here. With this on, recorded punches will be rounded to the nearest quarter hour based on 7-minute variance. Now we're all set. We can hide these settings since we won't need to do anything else here, unless your payroll policies or structure or company name changes. Before proceeding with the next steps, please follow the steps in the Quick Start Guide that came with your Timedox device to enroll your employees and record time punches. It's best to have at least 1 week's worth of organic data so that you're able to view a full report. In your Timedox device, each employee was assigned an ID. Let's import those now by selecting Import Employee ID. Select the data file that was imported from the clock and choose Open. After just a few seconds, the employee's IDs from the clock will fill in under Default Employee Contract. Please note, only employees who have recorded punches will be imported. If you've added your employees' names in the device, you'll notice they did not import as noted in the Quick Start Guide. Add your employees' names now to their corresponding ID numbers for them to be visible in the time reports once we import the attendance data. After adding your employees' names, you may add a payroll ID if you have one. If your company is set up to pay weekly overtime, you'll want to set how many hours before overtime is calculated. The default setting is 40, so no need to add anything if it's 40 hours. In the next field, define the overtime rate. The default setting is 1.5 times the hourly rate. In the next field, you add your employees' hourly rates if you'll use the software to calculate payroll. And finally, if you have automatic break deductions set up, these fields mean that after 6 worked hours, 1 hour of break time will be deducted. You can adjust these settings in the fields below. Now that our company and payroll settings have been defined and our employees have been added, we're ready to move on to the next step and import attendance data. Now it's time to import our employees' attendance data and view reports. We'll do this by clicking Attendance Reports. You'll receive a pop-up message informing you that a backup file has been saved. This backup file will include your employee's identification as well as the other settings you've applied. Select OK to proceed. That concludes your setup. You're now ready to process time and attendance reports for payroll. For help with this, please refer to the video titled 5 Steps to Payroll.